Your messaging is a critical business foundation that underpins so much more. Your content, emails, website copy, and offers all need to be built on a solid foundation of core messaging that resonates. So if you want to up-level your messaging so it ignites action takers to engage with you and buy from you, come along to my Resonate workshop on the 18th of June. You can find out more and register at tashcorbin.com/resonate. I hope to see you there. It's unfortunately an all too common experience of starting an online business. You're so excited, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed. You feel so much expectation and possibility. And the reality of running an online business can be far less glamorous and far less easy than you were led to believe. This is episode number 478 of the Heart Centered Business Podcast. And in today's episode, I want to address the big lies of online business. This episode is in response to a video posted by Lisa Tuig in response to podcast episode number 454, which was the missing link between socials and sales. Lisa created a very thoughtful video response talking about and posing some ideas around the big lies that we're told when we want to embark on creating an online business. So in today's podcast episode, I want to respond to that by addressing some of those big lies and how we can ensure that your experience of online business is aligned with what you want to be creating and does fill your cup and feel like you're making progress and you're moving forward as consistently as possible. Let's dive on in. Hello, I'm Tash Corbin, a business strategist and mentor based on the Sunshine Coast in Australia. The mission of this podcast is to help heart-centered entrepreneurs to make more money and in doing so, change the world for the better. This podcast was recorded on the lands of the Gubbi Gubbi and Jinnaburra people. Always was, always will be Aboriginal land. Let's dive on in. First and foremost, a big thank you to Lisa Tuig for her thoughtful and considered video response to podcast episode number 454. I'll link to both Lisa and the podcast episode, as well as her video in the show notes of today's episode if you want to go back and see the process in order. And in Lisa's video, she raised the big lie, and that is that you can just post on social media and make money passively while working 2 days a week. You can start a business online, create an online course in a few weeks, put a sales page on it, and then by posting on social media over and over again, using a bunch of AI-generated content or a bunch of swipe copy, you can make lots and lots of passive income just working a couple of days a week. That was the big lie that Lisa raised. And I wanted to create this podcast episode to really unpack what that big lie is, but some of the big lies that can proliferate about being an online business owner and the pathway to online business success. Firstly, I think it's important for us to be clear that there is a huge difference between creating a business 2 days a week, right? With 2 days a week available to you, being able to create and run a business versus posting on social media to run a business. Because the pathway to creating a financially viable business that could free you up from needing to have full-time employment is very different depending on capacity, goals, income level, resources available, and also the urgency with which you need to generate a substantial income. But yes, for a lot of people who find me, the strategy that I teach for sustainable, profitable, aligned business can feel like going back to the start. And it can feel like failure. And it can feel like letting go of the passive income dream. But Here's the great part about that. It's not actually forever, and we can actually tie it all together. We can use high connection, high conversion strategies as a startup methodology to create really juicy income, really substantial income in just a couple of days a week, but not through generating 5,000 followers on social media, because it's the generating 5,000 followers on social media that is the part that takes the most amount of time, the most amount of energy, the most amount of effort. And the number of followers you have on social media has very little connection to the amount of money you're going to make. So what I want to do is actually draw together some recent discussions and podcast ideas that have been shared, things that I've been talking about, the Facebook Lives that I've been doing, and bring them all together into a process that actually helps you to see that when we eliminate the lies we've been told about online business, the fundamental promise is still actually available to you. The fundamental promise of being able to start a business with 2 days a week capacity and generate a handsome $5,000 to $8,000 a month income, which is a really good baseline income for any startup business fairly quickly, that promise is actually still available to you. The big lie part of that is that that's available to you selling passive income products that are a couple of $100 each. Because to make sales of, let's say your passive income product is $100. Now, most people are selling $9 products these days, but let's just be generous and say your passive income product is $100. So to make $5,000 from that product, you need to make 50 sales. To make 50 sales, if we use the law of 1% conversion, which is a very common rule of thumb when selling passive income products, you need to have 100 times that amount of people, 5,000 people, joining your mailing list or joining that funnel every month. So if you want to make $5,000 a month, you need 5,000 leads per month for a $100 product. And to get 5,000 leads per month, paying for ads, which would be the only available strategy for you that would actually be something you could reliably predict, because you're not going to just wait for it to be the exception and go viral. That's not a sustainable, viable business strategy. So in order to get 5,000 leads for a funnel that sells a $100 product, you'd likely be paying between $5 to $10 per lead. And let's say it's super cheap somehow and it's only $3 a lead. $3 a lead times 5,000 leads is $15,000. So you're paying $15,000 to make $5,000 in sales. The math ain't mathin'. And that's the lie part. That's the part that's the lie. The next version of that lie is the membership model. If you have a membership model, then you won't need to remake those sales every single month because people pay monthly. So let's say, like, most people are quite comfortable with a $19 a month membership, maybe a $25 a month membership, maybe a $49 a month membership. But as we're getting into tougher economic times, the price sensitivity around memberships is far greater than price sensitivity around single purchase price. So that can cause issues when you've got an economic downturn. But let's be generous once again and say that your membership is actually $25 a month. So your income per sale is $25 a month. So your job then is to every month get new members in so you can increase your baseline monthly income. Well, if we again use the law of 1%, in order to get your $5,000 a month, you're not going to need just 50 sales at the $100, you're going to need 4 times that, right? So you're going to need 200 members on an ongoing basis in your membership to generate your $5,000 every month. So how many leads do you get to your launch of your membership in the first time that you run it? Well, if it's all organic, you're probably maxing out at 100 people come to a webinar. Let's say we'll be very generous and say 10% of them join your membership, but most webinars these days convert at around 3%, especially if you're using high churn and burn strategies, which a lot of these marketers teach. So let's say we'll be generous and say you get 5% conversion. So for your first webinar, you get 5 members paying you $25 a month. So you've got $125 a month in the bank. But in order to keep those members, you need to really deliver on your membership. So you need to do a good job of showing up and holding space for those members and providing the value for those members. And then your next launch, you do the next month. And let's say you use some of the money that you made. Instead of keeping that money, you put it into ads. And that gets you an extra 25 leads. So now you've got 125 coming to your webinar. Now you make 8 sales. Now you've got 13 members, but one of them drops out because they're not necessarily able to continue with their payments. So now you've got 12 members. The pathway to getting to a 5K month is a very long and painful one. And that's the problem, right? And that's the lie that Lisa raced. This whole passive income idea is proliferated as being the way to make money. I also saw this recently. There's a huge trend towards using AI to create online books and printables. And so you use AI, it generates a bunch of printables. You list them on Etsy and sell them as digital files. You list them on Amazon and people can print on demand and all that kind of stuff. And I went out searching because my only experience of this 2 years ago was there were people who had a membership teaching people how to do this and giving templates that you could change to be your own and all that kind of stuff. They were charging $50 a month and you could only continue selling the products you made through the membership if you continued paying them $50 a month. And so it was like master resale rights or something, but you had to be an active paying member. Otherwise you had to delist everything from your platforms and start over. And so, and when I went and looked at the people selling this membership to their accounts on Amazon and their accounts on Etsy, in the past 5 years, they'd sold a combined 47 products. Not 47 different products, 47 sales of a $12.50 print-on-demand book or a $9.99 template on Etsy. So these people were making more per month out of their customers that they were teaching how to do this than they had ever made actually doing the work themselves. So I went out looking before I started this podcast to go, is that still the issue? Is that still a thing? I found 5 people who sold courses or memberships teaching people how to create journals, print on demand, printables, all of those sorts of things. The average price of their courses was between $25 for a short 4-module self-study course, all the way up to $995 for a 12-week course on how to do this. And I went and found each of those creators on their shops on Amazon and on Etsy, and not one of them had ever sold more than 100 products. Not one. So it's more profitable to teach people how to sell journals on Etsy than it is to sell journals on Etsy. It's an upside down pyramid model, right? It doesn't actually work. That's the big lie. And they are consistently reinforcing and telling you that this passive income dream is absolutely possible and you can be making thousands of dollars in just a few months selling passive income products because they've got something to sell you. They tell it to you because they're selling it to you. And that part is the lie. But that doesn't mean a sustainable, viable income of $5,000 a month or $8,000 a month is not possible with a 2-day-a-week business. It's absolutely possible. Not only is it possible, I have dozens of people that I've mentored to do that. I have dozens of success stories through my takeoff program, through my VIP mentorship, where I've helped people to do that. I also have dozens of stories of people who've done that with me through the takeoff program and then 3 months later completely sucked the income out of their business because some random guru online convinced them that the way that they were making their $5,000 a month was the silly way. It was the unsustainable way because it wasn't passive income. So they completely threw out all of that success and all of that cash flow to pursue passive income models that ultimately made them a quarter or a tenth of the income they were making with working with people one-to-one, with working with people in a VIP model. So let's actually put together the strategy I would recommend if you did want to make $5,000 to $8,000 a month working 2 days a week. Number one, your first job is to validate your foundations quickly by making sales of VIP one-to-one. You just need a tiny audience with big connections, right? You don't need to have 5,000 followers on social media in order to validate your foundations quickly by making sales. My foundations of my business were validated by making sales to my friends and the friends of my friends, to people I knew through my professional networks, my social networks. Like one of my first raving clients was my choir teacher. Another one was a client she had, someone who was in one of her choirs that I wasn't in. So she was raving about how amazing I was to her choir because I'd helped her with getting a lot of the marketing materials sorted for her choirs, a lot of the client management systems, a lot of the how do we get people on auto pay and then they don't have to bring their $5 cash for choir each week, right? And so she was talking about that to another choir and one of the people said, "Oh, I really want to sell my art. I wonder if she could help me." And she reached out. And that was actually my first pay in full $2,500 client. So you don't need a huge audience to validate that people want your help in the area that is your zone of genius if you're willing to work your network, right? And in that first stage where all you're wanting to do is validate your foundations, all you need to do is sell VIP one-to-one and get paid well. The money you make per client is critical in the early stages of business, especially if you have limited time. If you have limited time, the amount of money that you are being paid per client is one of the most critical measures in your business. It's the one that has the most significant impact on your cash flow with the least amount of impact on your time. Because the thing that these passive income pushers don't tell you is the amount of time that it takes to sell a passive income product is huge compared to the amount of time that it takes to sell a VIP one-to-one product. Because selling a VIP one-to-one product is a one-to-one conversation with an individual that allows you to be very specific and bespoke to that individual's goals and desires and that individual's challenges. So number one is validate your foundations quickly by making sales to your existing network and your network's network, selling VIP one-to-one and being paid very well. Number two, build a flow of leads and sales with a one-to-one client attraction process. Whether that is on social media, how are you connecting with and learning about individuals on social media? I don't give two hoots how many followers you get. I don't give two hoots how much reach that post gets. All I care about is, did that post connect you with an individual within your niche who may be a good fit to work with you? And if it didn't do that, if you didn't create a connection, a two-way connection with one person, it didn't do its job. Same with email. Every email you send, its job is to create a two-way connection with one person. And if it does that, it can do its job and you can increase the likelihood that you're going to make another sale today. and doing lots and lots of one-on-one calls. It's not fun, right? It's not glamorous. I totally understand that. We have to face up to the rejection. Your job as a business owner is to go and get rejected as much as you can, because the more you are facing up to rejection, the more insight you get as to why people aren't buying from you, the more that says that you are proactively nurturing and inviting leads to consider offers, and the more consistently you are showing up and being an advocate for your business. And if you're not getting any rejections, you're not actually being proactive enough. You're not being enough of an advocate for your business. And then number 3, as the client attraction process starts to work more and more, that insight from what is working well goes into your content, into your socials. And then that content on socials works more effectively. The emails you send get more replies, get more responses, make more sales. And now you can actually scale with the money you're making in your business. So if you've still got limited time, you've got that 2 to 3 clients a month coming in and paying you a couple of $1,000s each, and that's all you need, right? When you're making a sale of $2,000 per person, to get $5,000 a month, you only need 3 sales. 3 sales. Now, if I said to you, would you rather make 3 sales, or would you rather the effort required to make 3 sales, or would you rather the effort required to make 300 sales? Most of you would choose 3 sales, not 300. But when it comes to the actual reality of what it is that you have to do to make those 3 sales, i.e. talk to humans one-on-one, one at a time, it doesn't feel like the glamorous, passive lifestyle that these online marketers have sold to you. That's why when people learn the strategy that I teach, it feels like you're going back to the start. It feels like you've failed. Because for a lot of people, when they first join the Takeoff program, they've been banging their heads against the social media walls for 2 years. They've spent 2 years trying to sell group programs, online courses, low ticket offers. And they are just so perplexed as to why their life doesn't look like the life of the person who sold them this lifestyle, who sold them this dream. And the reality is, for most of those people online, they started with the strategy I'm teaching you. They didn't start out selling passive income products. They didn't start out selling low ticket. And they'll tell you, oh, it was horrible when I was working with people one-on-one. The cash flow wasn't horrible. Oh, I was so close to burnout because I took on too many one-on-one clients. We can fix that. But that doesn't mean you throw the whole model out. That's the problem, is that you're throwing out the very foundational part of growing an online business that creates the opportunity for you to create something passive, that creates the opportunity for you to build the audience size that you need for the passive income part to work. So you can actually start scaling your business with the money you made in the business itself. That's where a juicy, scalable, low demand, boundaried time business of pleasure and lifestyle is built, in my humble opinion. I think a lot of this online business lie is proliferated because it feels easier to market. It feels easier to sell it, right? This podcast episode has probably turned a bunch of people off working with me, because they're like, no. I'd prefer to believe that I can do it with the passive income thing. I'd prefer to believe that it's just posting social media stuff and working 2 days a week and selling $19 products. That's the thing that's going to work it for me. And I totally understand that. That is totally fine. But ultimately, I have evidence based on the rule, not the exception. The people who successfully do this are not the exception. They're the rule. And I think that what you are being sold in the online space with this whole low ticket passive income thing, the case studies they're sharing are the exception. They're not the rule. The case studies they're sharing are the person who actually had $10,000 to spend on Facebook ads when they started, but they don't mention that when they tell that they share the case study. or the person that is their successful case study already had 20,000 followers on Instagram because they were doing other content that went viral and they had this huge influx of followers. And all they did was help them how to monetize a large following. But they don't tell you that the large following existed when they share the case study. All they tell you is that we didn't spend any money on ads. Okay, well, if you didn't spend money on ads, how did you acquire the audience? Did you magically acquire the audience through 5 posts of you dancing and pointing at something on Instagram? Or did you post every single day, sometimes 3 times a day for 6 years without ever pitching a product because all you were doing was sharing content at that point in time? And then when you finally decided you wanted to monetize that audience, you started selling passive income products and you didn't have to spend any money on ads. Because I can tell you, for every success story I see shared online, where they share who the person is, I can go and tell you what asset or what advantage they had that you don't. And that's why they were able to do this in 2 days a week, just posting random things on social media. So thank you so much, Lisa, for sharing your insight around the big lie. It really was an amazing, thought-provoking video. I've already shared it with dozens of people and gone, look at this, it's amazing. And I'm really grateful for the opportunity to actually pitch a counter offer. The counter offer is that the pathway to creating that passive income success is actually high connection, high conversion, and it's high ticket. And in learning how to build a business through high connection, high conversion, and high ticket, you actually create all of the resources, all of the assets, and all of the insights that you need to be able to scale with passive income products or leveraged products. But the biggest mistake I see people make is trying to do the second phase without having nailed the first. If you would like to go a little deeper in this, in the show notes of today's episode over at tashcorbin.com/478, I'll include a link to my Fast Track Your Business training. And that Fast Track Your Business training has a bit more of a step-by-step strategy laid out for you on how to use this high-ticket, high-conversion, high-connection model to fast-track the income part of your business. So make sure that you head on over to the show notes of today's episode to grab that link. It's a free training. And if you would like to be mentored through this process, that's exactly the mentorship program inside my Takeoff program. And the doors to Takeoff are actually opening very soon. We've had a closed doors period for a little while because I have been facilitating a Leads at Speed program, how to attract a bunch of leads really quickly into your business. So we've been doing that live together. So we didn't have any new students coming in while we were doing that. But that's actually completed now. And so we're about to reopen the doors. So I'll pop the link to the Takeoff program in the show notes. If doors are open, you'll be able to just jump in, check it out and join. If doors aren't currently open, it will direct you to sign up for a wait list. And if you register for the wait list, you will receive a special invitation to join the Takeoff program before we open doors to the public. So make sure you come and check all of that out at tashcorbin.com/478 because this is episode number 478 of the Heart Centered Business Podcast. Bye for now.